I am fantasy author Elle Penelope, and welcome to my Imaginary Friends, a look behind the scenes at an author mapping the worlds in my head and making them a reality. Hello friends, today is Friday, July 5th, 2019, and this is episode 21 of my Imaginary Friends. I'm Leslie. So this week's best thing is I have an outline and I have started writing. It's been a long time coming. So I am working on book 4 of the Earthsinger Chronicles. I started plotting it in May. I was hoping to be writing in June, and I didn't start writing until July 4th, but that's what it needed. So I might do another podcast or a video or something where I outline my process, because I did some stories on Instagram yesterday as I was laying out all the index cards that I had, and I got a lot of response from people about the process and teaching my process of plotting. And so if people are interested in that, I might do something like that, make a video or something. But plotting is different for everyone. So I love learning about other people's processes and, looking for little gems that I can incorporate in mine, even though it's such an intensely personal thing and every book is different. Like, you'll hear authors say that all the time. This book was very hard to plot, but I had a series of breakthroughs, which I've talked about here. And so this past week, I got to the point where I knew enough about the story to write out all the storylines and then tweak it. And I started with a 5-page outline. And I think the first time was one character's outline, and I did it through the story grid. And then, so I ended up with a 5-page outline, which is light for me. Like, I would expect, previously, I guess, I've had 11-ish page outlines for this length of book. But I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. And I did something that for this time for the first time, which is use printable index cards. So I have big stacks of regular colored index cards, but I didn't want to spend the time to write everything out by hand after I'd already typed it in and I had my outline. So I copied and pasted from Word into Excel. And since it was bullets, it actually put them all into rows. And then I did a mail merge back into Word inside of the Avery template for the printable index cards, which I just bought at Office Depot. And so it's 3x5 cards per page. And so I printed out all the scenes, and it's 52 scenes. And I color coded them, the text by which POV character it is. And then that's when I could spread them out. So I had basically columns of each character storyline, but I know they have to weave through. And I like to write in order. I've thought about writing all of one character at a time. And I might go back to that, but I prefer just to write it in the order it's going to be in the book, which is the order it happens in my mind. And then sometimes I'll go back and focus just on this character storyline. But for the fast draft, I think it's going to be better if I do it as like holistically. And so I just needed to spread out and figure out the order, like how they're going to weave together, both chronologically, logistically, like where people are physically in the world and how they're getting from place to place, and then also story beat wise. Like, I want to end, where is so-and-so? And the next scene is from so-and-so's point of view. And so that sort of, connection. And so I cleared off the dining room table, which is usually my like staging ground for sending out swag. So it's got all the bookmarks and all the stuff I send out and labels and things. And I just spread out all the index cards and spent like an hour or two organizing them and then ordering them in terms of the act structure. And I did a couple of posts on Instagram stories, which are now on my Instagram highlights under M Writing, if you're interested in seeing that. So yes, I feel great about having somewhere to start. And then yesterday I had been procrastinating a little bit with like reorganizing the cards and then like numbering them. And I was like, okay, finally, I need to write something today. So I just wanted to write one scene. I ended up doing two. I did a fast draft of the prologue and the first scene. I got 1,400 words. And I just felt great about it. So I've started a new Pacemaker app thing, like project on Pacemaker, which just gives you a nice graph that shows you where you need to be. So if I want to finish this first draft by August 12th, I think is the date that I put in, then I need X number of words a day. And I'm estimating it's going to be 80,000 words this first draft. I think I put 75,000 words in. So Pacemaker divides all that up and it gives you different ways that you can look at it. So I know, for example, I'm going to be at some conferences this month, and those days, if I get any words, it'll be less. So I can choose those days in Pacemaker and then choose write less. So it gives me a graph based on targets to hit. Tracking words makes more sense to me than tracking scenes. I really am going to write 1 or 2 scenes a day. And it's only 52 scenes right now, but that's going to expand, I know. So at first I had set it to track the scenes, but it's less satisfying to look at than to track the words. Like the graph isn't as pretty if it's just like 1 scene, 2 scenes. But if it's like 2,375 words this day and then 1,234 words that day, just psychologically, it's more satisfying to look at it that way. So yeah, I have my plan. And I know I'm going to miss some days, and I know that travel days are going to be really hard. I think I will just bring my Alpha Smart on the trips that I'm taking and just suck it up and bring like 1 extra thing to stick in my backpack so I can draft easily in the airport, on the plane, obviously in the hotel room. So that feels really good, and that is this week's best thing. I don't usually do this week's worst thing, but I'm going to make an exception because I injured my wrist and I have a splint on my wrist. Apparently I have tendinitis from rock climbing. So I cannot climb for a while. I don't know exactly how long. It was going to be hard to climb this month anyway with all the traveling that I am doing. So it's a good time to have an injury if there is such a thing. And I'm hoping by August I'll be back in the climbing gym. I had gone on my outdoor trip, I think 2 weeks ago. Not trip, but gone outdoor climbing. And I think it exacerbated. I'd been feeling some twinges in my wrist, and I should have probably been icing it, but I kind of ignored them. It wasn't that bad. And then the day after, no, I went climbing outside, and then a few days later, I went climbing in the gym again. And the day after that, I was like, oh no, something's wrong. I can't put any pressure on it. So that's where we're at with that, which is very, very disheartening. Also, typing with this splint on is interesting. I did it yesterday, and a friend of mine has suggested I try Dragon again, and I have Dragon, which is the dictation software. I actually bought Parallels for my Mac laptop, and Parallels is software where you can run Windows on your Mac, because the Windows version of Dragon is much better, and recently they just discontinued the Mac version. So I have Dragon, and I've tried it a couple of times, and I don't like it at all. And I've never had the time to really spend getting used to it because it slows me down so much in terms of writing. Like sometimes I will talk as I type, but I type fairly fast. And speaking, I speak faster. Yeah. So like the whole idea of dictating when you're drafting is that you can get more words and you can, get your book drafted faster, and that's all great. But it just feels so bad. It feels so wrong, like saying it. I don't know. And so typing with the splint has been difficult, but yeah, I feel like I have to be very, much more intentional with my typing. I'm slower just because, I don't have the movement in my wrist, which is the point. So my wrist can get better. But I, obviously can still move my fingers and type. I'm typing slower, and yeah, I don't know why I feel like it's more, deliberative. And that might actually be a good thing, even though I'm not getting as many words as I usually do when I'm typing. Something about that process is interesting to me. But it is still uncomfortable. And so, yeah, I might try Dragon again. I don't know. We'll see. I have to decide. In other news, kind of piggybacking on something I was talking about last week in terms of structure and plot and these obligatory scenes. So I read a couple of books this week that proved to me why structure is so important, because they were both meandering and did not follow a discernible structure that I could tell. And they're both by authors I've liked previously. I've enjoyed other books by them, but these two particular books by two different authors, I was bored, quite frankly. It was just they were just boring. And I think they were boring because they didn't have that structure. So, the idea when people push back against structure is making it formulaic. If you don't have any structure, you risk just meandering and just telling stories that don't have a point and don't have a plot and don't have a purpose at the end of the day. Like both of these books by the end, but I finished them both, which is amazing because I'm not good at finishing things that are boring. Because they both had something. Like, since I liked those authors in the past, I think that they have just an innate ability to keep you interested in what's going to happen at the end. Like, I just wanted to know how it was going to end. I was intrigued by the characters, even if I didn't like or connect with them. But the story, the plot, both of them were just lacking. And so, yeah, I was thinking about, okay, what act are we in? Like, are these progressive complications? Like, things were happening, but the same things seemed to be happening over and over again. And I think it was a case where it wasn't getting progressively worse, or if it was, it wasn't, something was just missing. And adhering, and I couldn't figure out where we were in the book, structure wise. And so it just reiterated to me that this is important. Like, and I looked on Goodreads, at least for one of the books, and it had a lot of 4 and 5 star reviews. So it's not to say that people won't enjoy, like other people won't enjoy your book if it has structural flaws. Like, I know for a fact, the second book in my Angel series, I applied no structure to it. I love that book, Angel Fall. I love it with all my heart. Like, and I've thought about going back and revising it and editing it, and I just haven't had the time, and I probably won't because I love it. And I don't think it's boring. I think it has other problems structurally. But so it is possible to have a deep connection and to feel, if the reader feels emotion when they read it, if the words and the characters and the actions are generating emotion, I think that's enough to make them like the book. Even if there's something in the back of their mind, which is like, something was a little off about it, but I still love the characters and I was still really here for it. And so those seemed to be the reviews that I was seeing, at least for the book I checked. And that's very valid, so it's not necessarily the death knell, but, if you don't follow structure, it's not going to necessarily kill it. But there are going to be plenty of people, the 2 and like 3 star reviews, the more negative reviews that I saw echoed my feelings, which were, it didn't have a plot and it meandered and it was just boring. So yeah, I know that I've written books before I really understood structure, and I understand more about it now than I ever did. And so it's perfectly possible to have a successful book without it, but it'll just be better if you understand those fundamentals and apply them, I think. So that's where we are this week. I am going to work my schedule, get this drafting done. By the time this comes out, the special edition of Song of Blood and Stone will be almost a week away. And I'm not going to stress about promo anymore. I'm just going to try to do a few more things, schedule like a Facebook Live or an IG Live or something to talk about the special edition the week it comes out. I'm going to put Breath of Dust and Dawn, which is book 1.5, on sale for a few weeks, which is the novella that comes after book 1. Obviously, that's what book 1.5 is. And yeah, and I think I schedule some posts and newsletter, send them a newsletter another time or two, and then that'll probably be it. So I'm trying to bring the stress level down. I've been having insomnia, which is not good. And usually, I do in general have to use melatonin a few times a week to sleep. But I don't know, I don't know if it's the new brand or if it's just I'm past it, that the past 2 nights I have not been able to sleep. And so I've been taking Benadryl, which makes me super groggy in the morning, and I hate that. But it was like 2:30 in the morning and I've just been lying awake. And I've had insomnia before and it was bad. And it's like one of the worst feelings in the world not to be able to sleep. So the odd thing is that work has lessened a little bit, launched one of the sites that had been on my mind, Pretty sure we're going to have a push back the schedule on the other big site that was supposed to be launching August 1st or the first week of August. And that would have been a miracle to launch that the first week of August. So I should feel better. Like I should be more relieved. And I am relieved, but it hasn't gotten to my body yet. Like my body doesn't feel relieved. And I'm waiting for that sensation, that grip on my chest to loosen because I think it should. But I'm facing this month of a lot of travel and a lot of events and a lot of things that I enjoy doing, but are also terrifying. Not terrifying. They're not that bad. Like I do. I like going to conferences and I like doing all of this stuff, but all of it so close together in the same month is a huge challenge. And so maybe my stress response is like looking forward and it's like, okay, we got past this hump and now we got to get, past another one. And so I'm looking forward to August when the book will be out. All the traveling will be done for a while, a few weeks, or at least I think I booked something else in September. But yeah, hopefully my body will get the message that it can relax now. In other news this week, the news came out that Halle Bailey has been cast as the new Ariel in Little Mermaid. And so they cast a black actress to play the Little Mermaid. And the internet exploded, or some corners of the internet exploded with racist vitriol, I guess. I don't know. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's probably pretty clear. Although I was talking to my husband who feels very differently to me. And I think that's very interesting. Like his perspective is not coming from one of racism, like a lot of the people. He's black, but he just thinks that black people should create our own stuff and not basically recast white things with black actors and black characters, just completely start from scratch. There's plenty of, African folklore to be mined. There's Caribbean stuff. There's African American folklore. Like there's all kinds of things that we could use to create our own and not sort of fight over the scraps of that white people give us when they put us in these roles. And I totally understand. And I agree with him to a point. Like we should create our own. Like I have committed myself creatively to creating black characters and, creating the things that I want to see in the world. And I think that's so vital and so, so important. But I also think that because of the history of the institutionalized racism in Hollywood and in the publishing industry and in any form of media, that it's not enough. Like we still don't have enough power yet to only create our own things. I think that representation is so important. And so part of that representation, when a certain group has been overrepresented proportionally, then I don't have a problem like slicing off pieces of that to represent people who have been underrepresented. Like I don't think of it as scraps the way that he does. Like I get where he's coming from, but like, why can't we have more black Disney princesses? Yes, we have Tiana, something that was created for us, but we have this whole like history of classics that have always been white, and there's no reason why they always have to be white. There was no reason for them to be white in the first place, like, so while we create our own and mine our own history and culture for things, like a correction is necessary. And I think this is part of the correction. I don't have a problem with correcting it and saying that, just have it be race blind, just because something has been that way doesn't mean it always has to be that way. And if we come at it from that perspective, the only things we can have are things that we create, and we still are fighting uphill against the institutionalized racism of these systems, that institutions that exist, that purposefully kept us back for so long. It's like redlining, it's like the idea of redlining was the practice in cities where they drew red lines on the map, and black people and poor people have to live in these places, and we're not going to give you mortgages for those places, so that you can't have, you can't own your own home in these places. And over the generations, that has produced generational poverty, and that was something that was created by the government and corporations as a way to separate things, right? So when something was created intentionally to subjugate people, you have to have intentional means with which to rectify that. And so there have been no intentional means. Well, there's probably some programs somewhere that are trying to fix that. But like, by and large, one of the reasons why, we have this generational poverty in these areas of major cities that are poor and Black and brown and kept and subjugated in some way are because of these policies. So unless we do something specifically to address that, you can't just let it fix itself on its own because the problem didn't generate on its own, And I think that's something to think about here, where like, yes, we're empowering more Black creatives and, people of color and other marginalized people as creatives to create their own stories and own voices and all of this stuff. And that's wonderful. And I support it and I do it. But it's not enough when you've had this machine chugging along for decades, for centuries, with part of its purpose is to marginalize. So yes, that's my opinion. Like, it's because it's so important for us to see ourselves represented, because we need more Black princesses and brown princesses and all the rest of it. And not just princesses, obviously, like that's just my metaphor for everything. We need more. And yes, we can create more, but if there is a Black Sleeping Beauty or a Black Snow White, wouldn't that be awesome? Can we make a Snow Black? I think those intentional means to rectify something that was intentionally done is necessary, and I'm here for it. And Little Mermaid was one of my favorite cartoons growing up. Like, I'm of an age where that was like when I was a kid, I watched Little Mermaid on my VHS tape of it over and over and over again. And I sang Part of Your World over and over and over again. So like that was right in my sweet spot. Whereas like some of the other, I was too old by the time like Mulan came out. I never actually saw that and other ones. But I was right in the demographic for Little Mermaid. And so I'm excited about it. And I'm glad that they're doing stuff like that. It does have the potential to backfire. Like my husband was like, well, what if they made Blade white? And I'm like, but that's not the same thing. When you have a group that's overrepresented proportionally and a group that's underrepresented proportionally, the correction of taking someone who was overrepresented and making them into someone who was underrepresented is different than going the opposite way. There's a power differential there. And so it's a false equivalency. And that's why it's okay to do one and not the other. Because when you're redistributing power, you don't... The idea of redistributing power is not to take it from the least powerful among us and give it to the most powerful. It's the opposite. And so I think that, I don't know, that's my 2 cents on the quote unquote controversy. And I posted a Black mermaid picture on my Instagram, which I found, and it was like, yes, we're all mermaids here. Like, why can't we all be mermaids? Why can't we all be princesses? And there's a lot of people that have a problem with the whole Disney princess thing in general, which is a different discussion. If you're going to have princesses, and you are going to have them, they're going to exist in media, and little girls are going to have an affinity for them, because that's how little girls are. And I don't think it's just because we've socialized little girls that way. I think that there's something magical about it. That's why, like, socialization is part of it, but it's across cultures, across the world. Little girls tend to like princesses, which is not to say that other people don't, but if we're going to have princesses, then we should have princesses that look like everybody. And some force is necessary to make that correction when it hasn't been done that way before. Okay. So that is it for me this week. I'm going to continue writing and get my words in, get through this first draft, so that I can get to the fun part, which is revision. Yay! And I'm hoping to do that by early August. So have a wonderful week, and until next time, happy reading. For episode show notes and to learn more about me and my books, go to lpenelope.com. Subscribe to My Imaginary Friends wherever you get your podcasts, and check out the video episodes on YouTube. Please leave a rating and review to help support the show.